In the international sphere, there are spot fires everywhere you turn. Perhaps the largest fire is the escalating situation in Myanmar and the military's willingness to spill blood. The military rulers have now ordered martial law in a wide area of Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. Security forces have killed dozens of protesters over the weekend in an effort to crack down on the resistance to last month's military coup. There are suggestions that the military are starting to weaken here. You see, the leader of the elected government, the 75-year-old Suu Kyi of the National League of Democracy Party, was meant to face a virtual court hearing yesterday. It couldn't go ahead. The internet was down. But the charges levelled against Suu Kyi are a joke. They include illegally importing walkie-talkie radios and infringing coronavirus rules. In other words, the whole thing's a stitch-up by the military. Suu Kyi will now face another hearing on March 24. Resistance to this military coup is the strongest ever, stronger than that of 1988, with hundreds of thousands taking to the streets. A huge number of civil servants, teachers, bus drivers and bank clerks are boycotting work as well. And thanks to the tech-savvy younger generation, the army's abuses are being regularly documented on social media, fueling more citizens to rise and join the resistance. The military are messing with the wrong generation, who are not prepared to roll over and cop their oppressive regime. Sadly, though, a third of those who have been shot were teenagers. One 19-year-old girl is dead from a sniper's bullet to her head. It is beyond sad. These are teenagers standing up for democracy and putting their lives at risk to do so. Last week, 5 media organisations were banned as the military thugs try to muzzle any dissenting voice. How these army generals ever thought they'd get away with such a coup in 2021, I've got no idea. The dire economic situation that this has triggered will be enough for people to revolt forever and a day because they've got nothing to lose. As one factory worker has said, her salary is so low, she's got nothing to lose by continuing to strike. Grassroots aid organisations are feeding protesters. Over the past month, the currency of Myanmar fell by 6.5% against the US dollar. Imports of fuel, on which Myanmar relies heavily, have stalled. The World Bank is no longer dispersing funds for $350 million worth of projects. Foreign investors are now relinquishing their stakes in conglomerates owned by the army, such as Kirin, a Japanese brewer, which has withdrawn from Myanmar Economic Holdings Limited. It's important to hit these thugs where it hurts, the hip pocket. But what does it say of today's Western leadership? When on the issue of Myanmar, Joe Biden's White House was arguing about whether or not to classify Myanmar as a military coup. And all that the UN has to offer is a statement by Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, a mad left-winger, calling the coup a serious blow to democratic reforms. That's as good as we'll get, all rhetoric and next to nothing in action. Where are the so-called defenders of democracy and human rights? The world is full of gutless politicians who are not willing to stand up and take decisive foreign policy action to put the Myanmar military back in their place and reinstate the democratically elected Suu Kyi. Without such international leadership, the plight of those in Myanmar will only get worse. I've said before, if the leader of the free world is not prepared to lead, and if the free world collectively won't defend democracy, what are we leaving for the children of tomorrow? One inescapable truth emerges. This is all happening post-Donald Trump. You don't need to be a Rhodes Scholar to know why.